brain looks at that, and then Parkinson's law kicks in. So that means your demand tends to increase to meet the supply that is available. And so when you see a bunch of money, you're like, okay, we have plenty of money. Let's go. We can spend something, right? Like if you see $100,000 in the bank account and you're thinking about making a $10,000 investment, you're probably going to say, yeah, okay, sure, we can afford that, of course. Yeah. That doesn't take into account your tax payment, right? We're getting close to the tax deadline. There's going to be 2022 tax plus Q1 estimates are going to be due soon. It doesn't take into account maybe rent is due next week or payrolls in, 6 days. Like it doesn't take all those things into account. So what we do in Profit First is we separate your money into multiple small plates. Those are multiple bank accounts.
Welcome back to the Scaling Therapy Practice. My name's James Marland. This is the show where we encourage you to take small steps towards big growth. My guest this week is Julie Harris. She's the founder of Green Oak Accounting, and also she does the podcast Therapy for Your Money. She's releasing a new book this May. It's Profit First for Therapists. I don't know if you're familiar with the Mike Michalowicz book, Profit First, but that book was pretty instrumental when I ran the virtual assistant company, helping us know what we could afford, how to pay our staff, when to save for money, making sure that there were profits coming out. Just gave us the system and the framework to understand how the finances were going, and it gives real numbers, not just a block of money in the bank account, but like numbers on like taxes and profit and operation expenses. It was a great system. And my favorite thing about talking with Julie is she cares. Like she really knows what she's doing, and you can tell she wants to share it with other people. She puts her heart into the work. And looking at the Profit First for Therapists book, and then I got a pre-order, so I saw the supplemental materials and forms. It's like she really tried to set up therapists for making the best financial decisions they can. And the thing on the back, every practice deserves to be profitable. You can really tell that shines through as she talks about it. And so I know you're going to learn a lot as you listen to this episode. What is this deal about small plates? What is the deal about taking profit first? How does that formula work? How can you how can you plan for the future? She talks about all that and more in this episode. So join me for this episode with Julie Harris and Profit First. Welcome to the Scaling Therapy Practice. This is James Marland. This is the show where we help you take small steps towards big growth. I'm geeking out a little bit here because one of my favorite business people and entrepreneurs and just advice givers and a generally good person is here with me today. It's Julie Harris from Green Oak Accounting and Profit First for Therapists. Hello, Julie.
James, I feel so good about myself. I'm one of your favorite, dare I say your favorite accountants, maybe?
Yes, absolutely. You are 100%
probably not a
my
long
favorite
list,
accountant. Right? Out of all the accountants, you are at the pinnacle.
Thank you.
Man, what's our history? So you helped your practice served, or your company served the company I work for, the virtual assistant company. And when anybody asked me, who do I go to for accounting and help with my therapy office, and I need to know my numbers, I'm like, do I have the people for you? It's Julie and her team. They were so responsive. I don't know how you hired, anyways, everybody was great.
Thank you so much.
They were so responsive. They answered questions that probably weren't in the package that we bought. I mean, I'm not it was just a great service in it. For about 2 years, we for 2 years I kind of struggled, do we have enough money for this, or what's our numbers? I'm kind of filling in the blanks, but I don't know what's going on too well. And I just felt this sense of relief when your team came over and is like, hey, this is how you do it. So Hey, Julie, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to see you, James. I'm so glad to be here with you today.
So, a little bit of introduction. Julie Harris is an expert in profit first who has helped hundreds of private practice owners gain financial freedom. She's the founder of Green Oak Accounting, the country's largest firm serving the mental health industry. Wow,
Yeah,
that's new. When did
yeah.
that happen?
Yeah. I mean, for a while we were the only firm, and now we are the largest firm. So
Okay,
that's a thing now.
you're a leader in the industry,
Yeah.
blazing the trail. Julie's an accountant, consultant, speaker, and author of Profit First for Therapists. She hosts the Therapy for Your Money podcast, which is a show I reference probably monthly here, especially for your tool on ROI, the
Yes.
ROI
Thank you.
spreadsheet. So, Julie, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became the accountant and the author and the speaker that we know and love.
Yeah. Well, I think numbers are my superpower, right? That is the thing that I am good at. And I kind of tell this story in the book, but I get asked a lot, why do you work with therapists? Like, how did that
Mm,
even, like, what is the link, right? Because for some people, it's, oh, well, I have a spouse who's a therapist, or I have this or that. And like, my story is a simple one that when I started my accounting firm, we were generalists, and that worked well for a while. But then I realized like the team that I had assembled at that point, we really all enjoyed the relationship with our clients. And there were some clients where we had a great relationship with them, and some clients that would not return our phone calls or
mm,
emails, and then we just could never get information from them. And so when we got intentional about who do we want to serve in a really deep way so that we can have an even deeper relationship, we want to be able to help people not just like do the compliance work and get the bookkeeping done, but we want to be able to help in a really intentional way, and the people that we loved working with at that point were therapists and still are. And so we got really intentional about, okay, let's look at the data here. At that point, we had a number of therapist clients, thanks to one of our long time clients, Ernie. And so we did good work with him, and he asked a lot of really great questions. He still does. And so we kind of kept digging in deeper, and we realized like, okay, our clients who are doing well over here, they're doing some things that are similar. And our clients who are struggling financially over here, they have some things in common. So what if we just share this information between the two of them? Could that help them move the needle? And it did.
mm,
So that way, that's how we kind of got started. And then with every additional client that we work with, that's another data point, right? That's another way for us to see like, is this working or is this not? And so now we're super intentional. We only work with therapists in private practice. We will work with their, side businesses or something like that, but we only take on clients who are kind of
mhm,
related to this industry because we know we can help them in such a meaningful way, right? So if someone comes to us and says, I want to hire this person. I don't know how much I should offer them. We have the answer for that. Or if
mm,
they say, I want to introduce a bonus structure for my team, what could that look like? We have some options for them. Or if they say, I'm thinking about this space, but I don't know if it makes sense financially. We have the answer for that, right? We know kind of where your rent spend should be as a percentage of income, and we can say like, if you're going to spend this much on rent, here's the number of sessions per week that you need in that space. Is that doable? Right? So like we have all of this data available, and so we can help in a way that other accountants just can't because they just don't know, right? They're great at accounting, they're great at tax prep, but they don't know your industry the way that we do.
yeah, that was so you kinda answered my next question, like, what is specializing do for your practice? 'Cause, do for your business that another accountant couldn't, and it sounds like you have the data you've worked with enough people that the numbers to you tell a more rich story than just somebody who hasn't worked with therapists before.
Yeah. To us, right? To my team and I like to say that we have the heart of a teacher. So we can look at the
Yep.
numbers and see the story that's happening, right? The wins, the
Mhm,
struggles, the what's going on over here. And then we can help translate that into something that makes sense to a private practice owner. So we might pull the data from the EHR and say, hey, what's going on with this person over here? Something's going on there, right? We might not know what, and we might not be the ones fixing it, but if we just say, hey, what's going on here, then that is something that the practice owner can take action on, right? They might say, oh, well, this person was out for 3 weeks because they were sick. Okay, then you know why this is. But if that's not the case, then what's going on? Did they stop completing their notes? Did we bill for them? Like
Hmm.
what is going on? And
Yeah.
then they can look at
Were they
what's
putting in
happening.
the wrong code for 3 weeks
Yeah.
and their payments didn't go through? And then yeah.
Yeah.
I remember so many times just what you explained. Oh, her name is escaping me. Um, the one who helped us would
Oh,
always say
Carolyn.
that. What is the name of what is so if we had a decision to make, she would just go back and say, this is what your profit is, this is what your expenses are, this is what it's projected to be. Now you have the information. Can you do what you wanted to do? It was just having that knowledge to lay it out that way was just very helpful for decision making and peace of mind.
Yeah.
Um,
It,
so you know about staffing. So staffing's a big question that people have, especially when can I afford this person, or when it's the right time to hire. How do you help people with the staffing decision? How does that how can you help somebody better than a just a regular accountant that's not niche down or specialized?
yeah. Well, with the staffing decision, there's a lot of different pieces there. I think part of the answer is the end goal. Like what is the end goal of hiring, right? Or what is your next hire? Some people will
Hmm.
say, well, I need help. Okay, great. What do you need help with? So if it's a solo clinician, for example, that is getting really close to full, I think before you hire another clinician, you might want to hire a virtual assistant or an admin or
Mm,
someone to help you with the lower level items that you as the owner were bootstrapping in the beginning and don't need to be doing anymore, right? Maybe it makes sense financially to offload some of that so you could continue to see the clients that you're seeing or see a few more before you hire, right? And have some systems in place around those things before you bring someone on. Maybe the hiring is because you have a wait list and you want to be able to better serve the community, right? And like you just
mhm.
want to have a bigger
But what's
reach.
the reason? Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, then your next hire probably is a clinician, right? But how are you going to support them? So there's a lot of different discussions that we can have there. And then within the Profit First for Therapists book specifically, I talk I it's all about profit first, but there's other things as well. So I have a whole chapter on scaling, a whole chapter on compensation,
Mm, mm.
chapter on paying down debt, like all the things that I felt are really
Wow.
important for
Yeah.
practice owners. And when we talk about growing or scaling, there's a lot of different ways that that can happen. That might be you're growing by adding clinicians. Maybe it's growing by adding admin or leadership team. Maybe it's growing by adding a location or expanding that location, right? Depending on how you're doing that, there's going to be different costs involved. And then just by looking at the numbers, forecast will basically always be wrong, right? It's always incorrect because we're
Mhm.
just estimating. But by looking, we can see, does this make sense? Like, do we need to be in a complete fringe case where everything goes perfectly right for this to make financial sense? Or like, or can it make sense in most cases? Like the numbers will usually give us some information there.
Great. Okay. I gotta realize I've started asking you all these questions before I got into my segment about the tools and tips, because I'm like, everything you say just has another question. Like, how do you do this? How do you do this? So we'll get to that,
Okay.
and your story of how y- how you came to write the book Profit First for Therapists. But let's do our warm-up segment that we've already kinda, blown through, but the tool tip or tech of the week. I'll go first, and mine is just a philosophy. Um, it's a quote from Zig Ziglar, and he says, "You will get all you want in life if you help enough people get what they want." And
Love
I
that one.
yeah, I think that's something I learned like 8, 10 years ago when I started listening to like motivational tapes and like self-help books and things, and just it gave me a new perspective that it's not all about me. It's like how I can help other people, and you help enough people, you will get what you want to. And I'm just like, that's just a wonderful philosophy that I try to live by. I'm out here trying to help people, and we're all going to make it to the top together. So that's my tip of the week.
I love it.
So do you have a tip or tool or tech,
Okay.
Julie?
I can share a tech tool that I am loving right now. Um, so James, I have a secret for you. I am one of
Okay.
those people who has it, usually not when I'm recording a podcast, but I usually have 1,000 tabs open. I exaggerate by 1,000, but like I
I'm
usually
with you.
have
I'm
30
tracking.
tabs open. And so then I never want to restart my computer because I'm going to lose all of them. So I discovered the Chrome extension One Tab, and I love it. So with One Tab, I turn it on, it saves every single thing that I have open. I can restart my computer and do all the updates, and ta-da, I can restore all of them exactly the way they were. So that is my little tip of the
Okay.
week.
Does it opens it back up into
Yes.
is there an interface, or does it just say, okay, I saved your spot, now you're back?
So there is an interface. So I usually have like multiple because I have a giant monitor. So I'll have like multiple uh, groups of tabs together. So
Yeah.
it can restore all of them separately.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool because I by the end of the day, I have 20 or 30 things open,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna check that out. So it's called
One
Chrome
tab.
One Tab.
Yeah. ONETAB.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I love
Welcome.
tech tips. I'm a
Yeah.
geek at heart. I have a giant monitor too, and if I'm going to spend something out of my operations, or it's going to be to buy a tool or a toy. I mean,
Yeah.
a tech
A tech
toy,
toy.
because I love those types of things. So great. Okay, so we've done a little bit of warm up. Let's talk about profit first for therapists. How did you get it? How did you Writing a book is awesome. It's one of the goals of my life. And you run a business and you have all these clients and you run staff meetings, you're going to conferences. How did you get to start writing this book? And it's coming out when?
May 2nd.
May 2nd.
It's out
So it's
on May 2nd. Yeah.
coming
Almost
out
there.
soon.
So this is 2 years in the making. It was not a short process. As you said, I have, the business. I run Green Oak Accounting every day. I have 3 kids. I have 3 dogs now.
Oh,
For part of it, I was also caring for my mother who was sick.
mm,
But I j- I believe in profit first deeply, and one of the reasons I wrote this book is I wanted a way to help the mental health community. And no matter how big my accounting firm is, there's just not a chance that I'm ever going to be able to help all the therapists out there, right? Like there's just too
mhm.
much need for one accounting firm to um to handle all that. And so I wanted a way to share this message with the world because I just believe in it that deeply. Profit First changed my life. It is how I had the courage to start my own business. I grew up in a household where I had a very happy childhood. My mom was a serial entrepreneur. And so she loved the starting a business phase. And then, usually it did not work out. So she started the business. She got all excited. Let's do the marketing and did this and that. Like
Mhm.
I can just remember her energy. And some of my first childhood memories are from her sewing store. She had a little, like a Joanne Fabric type
Mhm.
store, like all the buttons and all the thingamabobs. And, I just love that store, but that store unfortunately failed. And I spent my childhood seeing this cycle happen again and again, right? And so every time one of the businesses failed, we would move. My mom would take a new job working for someone else. We would have a new home, new school, new friends, new everything, right? My sister and I, we started over. And so I just remember so deeply when a business fails, it's not just the business owner, it's everyone around them who goes through that with them. And so had always told myself as a kid, like, I will never be a business owner because this is crazy. If my mom can't do it, I can't either. So I'm just, this is not going to work. But then many years later, I met and married my husband, who he has been a business owner for, I think, almost 20 years now. And so I kind of started to see like, okay, there's other ways to do this. Like maybe this could work. But also with, I started the business when my kids were really, really small because I needed flexibility. And in the market, that just did not exist at that point. So one of the ways like I could make that leap is with Profit First. It is the way that I started my business, made sure that I was able to pay myself, take care of my family. And then later on, as my mom got sick, it protected me too. That is the way that I was able to take a step back from working in late 2021, early 2022 to care for her right before she passed away. And so the impact is just you know, is so big on my life that I can't not share this message.
Awesome. So what's it did you have to reach out to, Mike McCallowitz, or did they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I am, my firm is Profit First certified. So we are Profit First professionals. So we work with Mike and his team on a regular basis, on an ongoing basis. That's just how we can use the Profit First system and the Profit First name. And so we started that conversation a couple of years ago around like, hey, this message needs to get out there. Are you up for it? And I decided I was.
Great. It's so cool to have a message that you believe in deeply, like something that has impacted you, is meaningful to you, it helps other people, and then you get to share it to a larger audience. That just sounds like the dream. If you were going to write out a dream job description, hey, share what meant something to me to help other people. It sounds like something you might put down on that, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. And one of the reasons I wanted to write the book is because a lot of practice owners were coming to my firm and saying, "Hey, I've read Profit First or I've heard of it and I want to do it, but I don't understand. I'm not sure how to do this for my private practice. Like it does the way it's laid out, it's and Mike's book is amazing. Mike Michalowicz wrote the original
Hmm.
Profit First, but it is a general book, right? It's meant for every industry. And there are just some things that don't quite fit for private practice. So my team and I had already customized this system in a way that we know works really, really well. And so people needed to know about it.
So, without sharing the whole book, can you give us one of those things that you
Sure.
updated? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for example, in the original book, operating expenses and payroll are together. So I have separated those out. In private practice, payroll is, or in a group practice at least, payroll is usually the single largest expense for the business. And so separating it into two different accounts, so we have an OpEx account and a payroll account, that helps you control the single largest expense in the business. So if there is an issue, it's usually going to come from one of those two accounts. On occasion, it will come from like a owner's pay, or maybe there's not enough
Mhm.
tax savings, but like most of the time, the issue is going to come there. So it makes it a lot easier to see where is the issue because your bank accounts are giving you information, right? So when you
Yep.
look at the bank account, if it's, $100 left in your payroll account, like that's your bank account saying urgent, urgent, right? There's a flashing red light
Yeah.
saying, pay attention to me. Something is going on over here. So I just find that Profit First makes it so simple to see like where is the issue. And so that's one of the many changes that we've made to the system, for example.
It seems, so when you're explaining it, it seems simple and like obvious. It seems obvious. Oh, you would wanna know this. You would wanna pull it apart from some of these other expenses because that expense has a much bigger impact. The staffing, I'm saying, has a much bigger impact on s the other things, and if you mix them together, they're hidden, or it could be hidden. Like, let's say a bill doesn't come through, and so now you have a lot more money in the operating expenses, but you really don't because
Right.
it's not really there because or you spent too much money on staffing, or something happened in staffing, and you don't find out because of the build that didn't come through yet for the operations covers it up. Like, um, yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And so one of the core principles of Profit First is that we use small plates, right? So if I can kind of take a step back to the plates. So I'm not a nutrition expert. I'm a finance expert, but I can tell you when I eat from a smaller plate, I just tend to eat less, right? That
Yeah.
is at least how my brain is wired. And that just happens to be the way that most people are wired, unless they have a will of steel, which I do not. And so when you're looking at your money as one big plate, right? If you have one big checking account for your business, that's one large plate. So your brain looks at that, and then Parkinson's law kicks in. So that means your demand tends to increase to meet the supply that is available. And so when you see a bunch of money, you're like, okay, we have plenty of money. Let's go. We can spend something, right? Like if you see
Mm.
$100,000 in the bank account and you're thinking about making a $10,000 investment, you're probably going to say, yeah, okay, sure, we can afford that. Of course.
Yeah.
That doesn't take into account your tax payment, right? We're getting close to the tax deadline. There's going to be 2022 tax plus Q1 estimates are going to be due soon. It doesn't take into account maybe rent is due next week or payrolls in, 6 days. Like it doesn't take all those things into account. So what we do in Profit First is we separate your money into multiple small plates. Those are multiple bank accounts. Typically your existing checking account, and that's one of the, going to give you a bonus. This is one of the other ways that we've customized it. Your existing checking accounts becomes your income account, especially in an insurance practice. We do not want to mess with where insurance payments are being deposited. Your
No.
existing checking account
Yeah.
becomes your income account. All the deposits come in. Then we add to that a profit account. As the name implies, we want you to take your profit first. That's going to be your reward for being a shareholder of the business. So that is meant to be profit, not your kind of household expense account. Then we have an owner's pay account. That's for the account that's going to pay you as the owner, whether that's an owner's draw, distribution. Sometimes it can be payroll, right? There's depending on the legal entity, there's a lot of different ways an owner might get paid, but we have an account reserved for the owner's pay. Then we have taxes. That's where we're going to have funds earmarked for taxes that the business will pay either for itself or on behalf of the owner. Then we have an operating expense account and a payroll account. So by splitting all that cash into multiple 5 or 6 bank accounts, then those accounts are going to give you some information. So if you had that same $100,000 that I just mentioned a minute ago, but then you have only $8,000 in your OPEX account because all the other money is earmarked for, for all the other things, that $10,000 decision, you might say, oh, maybe it's not time yet, right? Maybe we don't quite have enough money. Can we do payments? Can we defer this, right? What can we do to make it work? Because at a glance, you're able to tell how much money do I actually have available to spend.
Perfect. It's a system that gives you the information you need easily. Because before, wouldn't you have to like understand profit loss statements and balance sheets and like
Yeah,
how
you
like
absolutely would. And practice owners don't look at those, right? That's in order to make a financial decision without Profit First, you have to look at your profit and loss, your balance sheet, and your statement of cash flow, in addition to your bank account. That also makes the assumption that your books are current and that they're accurate, right? Which, I've worked with enough practices to tell you, if you're doing them yourself, there's a really good chance they're not accurate, right? Your accountant is having to go in there at the end of the year and like fix some things up because I've seen
fix
some
it.
crazy
Yeah.
stuff. And so, you have to make that assumption and you have to actually look at those. And I know that most people don't do that, in part because I don't even do that, right? Like I don't look at those 3 reports every day, and I'm an accountant. Most of the time, I look at them every month, definitely. But most of the time I'm looking at my Profit First bank accounts, right? I'm pulling up my bank app on my phone and looking at like, okay, what is available? Let's make a decision. That's just how human behavior works. And so Profit First is a way to leverage your existing habits instead of trying to change them. You're taking the things that you're already doing, and it gives you now enough information that you can make good, sound financial decisions.
Because if you had to, let's say you wanted to invest that $10,000 in a training program or a new hire or a new piece of equipment, whatever big decision you have to make, and you don't know how to read those things, you're just going to wing it, right? Like you're just going to go by your gut and like, well, we could do it last time. And like small decisions like can we buy $20 of soda for the break room? That's one thing, but $10,000 for this piece of equipment, a new copier or something, that's something you're going to want to know. You're going to want to have assurance that you
Yeah.
have it.
Well, and
Uh,
one of the things I talk about in the book is that you can sometimes add a bank account if it can be useful to you. For example, an expansion bank account can be really helpful. Since your podcast is about scaling, right? Like if someone is thinking of adding a location, you can definitely open up an additional account beyond the ones that I've mentioned for expansion specifically. And so if you're able to earmark some money every time you make transfers to that account, that is also information to you, right? That means you have enough free cash flow that you're able to actually allocate some money there. So that means you could reasonably assume that you might be able to continue to make that kind of investment. Um, you can save up money in that account for your new hire. If you're hiring a new clinician, you might be paying them before you've been paid. And so it's a good idea to have like 2 to 6 weeks worth of their wages saved up. And so that's a place that you can go park that money. And when you have that money available, then you're like, okay, now I'm ready. This is information to me, even though they might not generate revenue right away. I know I can pay them before I get paid.
yeah, like if and the information is if you start looking at that account that you set aside for a new employee and you start taking from it, then you might not have enough
Exactly.
to afford that person yet, and that's another piece of data. Okay, what cost can I eliminate? What can I can we make more money in a different way to afford this person so that we can float their salary for 4 to 6 weeks? So, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes that means, like, making some really tough decisions for yourself, right? Maybe you're reducing your take-home pay for a little while to make this work. Maybe you're going to, see more clients
Mhm.
temporarily. Like, you can make those decisions, but if you're not able to consistently, fund that expansion account, or you're constantly borrowing against it, that tells you there's a good chance that you can't afford this, so something needs to change, or you you will magically be able to
Yeah.
afford it. And there's always a part of scaling that is a leap of faith, right? Of like, okay, we're just gonna like there's a little bit of magic in it, but it can't just be magic.
Mhm.
Is my point. Like there has to be some planning or some idea of like how you're going to pay people when you're taking their livelihood into your hands. Like it's reasonable for them to expect to get paid and get paid on time, and, like, having a plan is just going to make also you as the owner feel better and sleep well at night when you know you actually can do that too.
Yeah, that comfort, is it's priceless. That ability to know you 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 have a plan, you're affording things are working. Um, that's something that I bet people without a system don't have, or they just ignore it. They ignore those thoughts. Uh, so so we talked a lot about constraints and like saying no to yourself a little bit, but how can a practice scale or grow while using profit first?
Um, I I am a firm believer that you don't need to go into debt to scale a practice. And so you can go into debt, right? That is a choice that you can make, but you don't have to. Uh, Therapy has a low barrier to entry, especially these days, as far as like getting set up. So when you're looking at, let's say, just opening a new office, which is probably going to be the most expensive way that you can
Hmm.
expand, because then you're going to have your first and last month's rent. You're likely going to have some kind of leasehold improvement, right? Like um, rearranging the space, maybe some carpet, some soundproofing, this and that, some
Hmm.
some furniture, right? So this is your most expensive um, investment. There are ways still to make that work without having to go into debt. You might uh, one of our clients, I call her the Facebook marketplace queen. Like she will furnish her therapy rooms for so little money by just looking for the right finds, and they look amazing. Not everyone, I don't have that talent, but a lot of people have that talent, right? So you can make decisions on where that money is spent. Other clients will say, okay, I'm not going to I don't want to pay rent while we are improving this space. So I'm going to ask the landlord for 3 months free rent up front so that by the time we have to start paying, we're ready to already start making money in that space, right? There's a lot of
Hmm.
different ways that you can do that. But having a plan is always going to set you up for success more than just saying like, oh, no, let's see, and we'll figure it out. Because when you get to that point of like, okay, there is no more money left and payroll is due tomorrow, what are we going to do? Those are the moments that you're not making the best financial decisions, right?
Mm,
It's kind of like if I have a really busy day and I don't eat all day, when I get home, I'm starving and cranky, and I'm not going to make the best eating decisions, right? So
mhm.
when your business is starved for cash, you're not making the best decisions. You're looking at what is the most recent, line of credit email I received, or where can I get quick funds? And those are not loans that
Ooh,
are good for businesses. They're usually predatory loans with really high fees, high upfront fees. Sometimes their rates are completely insane. And
yeah.
like that is not a good path for a business. So by planning ahead, you do leave a little room for that magic, but you are able to have a plan for financially how you're going to pay for that. And then that means that instead of having to take some profit to pay back your loan later, like you get to actually keep that. So you might make sacrifices now for future rewards versus taking out a loan now and having to delay that reward even longer because you're having to pay back the loan.
Yeah, when you were talking about, when you have to make these decisions and you're not in the best frame of mind, I went to, like, hiring decisions.
Okay.
I started thinking about hiring decisions because if you have to hire somebody now to fill that space
Yeah.
because you're behind, you might hire, like, you the red flags that you would normally see, a mile away, you'll be like, "Oh, I can work with that," or I can teach that or train that," and then you make this really bad hiring decision that you never would have made if you had a plan and you were in a better frame of mind.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Well, so that's how it can help. But what are some of the ways practice owners get in trouble then financially when scaling?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the loan piece is really tough. Like the last minute, where am I going to
Loans.
get cash for
Mm.
tomorrow? Right? A loan can be a great way. It can be a good way to grow, but the last minute loan is a really, really tough place to be. Um, so I would say that is probably one of the biggest ways that we see people get in trouble. I like to say failure to plan is a plan to fail. And so not having a plan for like, how much are we actually going to spend on this? What do we estimate it's going to cost? The reality of expansion is always more expensive than what we had planned. But if we at least have some kind of idea, we could start thinking about where is this cash coming from? Um, and if there is a plan, we can usually figure out a way.
So you've mentioned cash a lot. This is
Mhm.
not in the script, by the way, but I figure you can handle this. And you
Yeah.
mentioned the term free cash flow. And I've come across that in some of the business books, but free cash flow is really important, but I don't think we understand it. Like when you hear words that free cash flow carries weight to it, that if you don't know, it might not be, you might not understand it. So for the practice owner who's like, what is this free cash flow and why is it so important? And just a little bit, can you tell us why
Yeah.
that's important?
Yeah. Well, so in Profit First, we talk about allocations typically, right? So percentages. So ultimately, there's money coming into the business. That's your gross income. And then that is the money that you have available for your practice. And how you spend that money ultimately has to equal 100%, because that's how math works, right? So those are the funds that you have available. So of that money, you might be spending 55% on therapist payroll. You might be spending 6% on admin, right? And then at the end, you're going to have some additional money available for your, owner's pay, for your profit, for your taxes. So if you have some percentages to play with there, that is going to be your available cash flow. So if you're able to say, you know what, we have 3% available that I'm going to save for expansion, or whether that's expansion, emergency, a future project that has no name, side gig, whatever it may, buying a building, right? There's so many different things that it can be. Then that means that you have free cash flow available. If you are using every single penny that you have on operating expenses and payroll, and you have nothing left for yourself, for taxes, for profit, that's a problem, right? Like your numbers equal 100%, but it's in a problematic way. There's some cases where there's a negative amount left, where 100% is coming in, 105% is going out. That means you're funding that with either loans,
Negative.
personal cash. I definitely have seen that more times than I can count,
The personal cash.
where personal cash is
Yeah.
coming in, or having to be contributed, right? Or like parents are investing. There's that ultimately is what happens when you have that negative cash flow. It's coming from somewhere, or it's last month's profit that is now being eaten away, right? So there's many different ways that can happen. But so in a business, ideally, there's going to be some available cash flow for other things. That might be on months that you're not planning for an expansion or investing. That might be for you, right? You get an additional distribution that might sometimes go to your taxes if you have a larger tax bill than you had expected. But that's kind of how I think of the amount of money that's available.
And that's also just another indicator of health, right?
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
you have to, in fact, a business that has a negative free cash flow is probably not super healthy.
No, that's typically the situation where my team and I get an email saying, like, I need help. I think I might need to close my business, right? From a
Mhm.
prospective client saying, like, can you guys help me save this?
Yeah.
So it's a tough situation. In most cases, it's fixable, but you have to take action before you're completely out of money.
All right. Well, we have just a few minutes left. I have a couple questions here. Do you have the list of questions in front of you? Do you want to answer one more?
Um,
Like,
sure.
how can a practice owner know that they're on the right track? That is a good question to end up with.
Yes. So, how can a practice owner know that they're on the right track? You're able to pay yourself a living wage. I think that's a really important piece. To do that, sometimes you have to run the numbers and figure out how much you need to pay yourself a living wage. But I um, am always a fan of a practice supporting the lifestyle of the clinician. So that is your household, right? So what does it take to pay your mortgage or your rent and your car payment, put gas in the car, food on the table, right? What does it take to kind of maintain your household? That doesn't mean that you're going on, vacations to Fiji twice a year, but like, what does it take to maintain your comfortable life with the things that you need, right? You're where your kids are doing activities, you get to go out once in a while and do something fun, right? Like those things. And so when you're at that point, that just significantly reduces the stress typically of the practice owner to know that like you are secure and you're able to continue to run your household. And so I feel like that is one of the big key indicators that you're on the right track. You might still want more, but you're okay. You're going to be okay. And I think every practice should be able to do that for their owner. And if it doesn't, then sometimes there's just some small little tweaks that need to happen, right? Maybe you need to focus on revenue generating activities. Maybe you need to reduce expenses. Maybe both, right? Maybe you need some kind of help so that you can be more efficient. There's a lot of different ways for how that can happen, but it should happen.
Great. Well, that's a great question to end up on, and I think that's a wonderful message for therapists. Like, your practice is something that should give you a livable wage, something that is taking care of you and your needs, and you're not super stressed out about where's the money coming from and how it's going, because you have goals, you have a plan, and you are taking those small steps to move yourself forward.
Yeah.
Uh, so so Julie, this has been wonderful. Where can people find you and find more about your podcast and your services? Like, you got so much. So
There's so much going on.
tell us all
Well,
the
so
stuff.
right now, I am promoting the book. And
Mhm.
so profitfirstfortherapists.com/scaling. For your listeners specifically, James, we have our Profit First workbook available where they're going to find a checklist on how to get started with Profit First, the instant assessment. They can also order the book directly from the website. So that is a great place to start. We also have a free Facebook group specifically for Profit First for Therapists. So if you're kind of thinking about it, sort of, kind of, maybe implementing Profit First, that's a great place to go. You can find my podcast at therapyformoney.com and my accounting firm at greenoakaccounting.com. And we always offer a free consultation for anyone who's interested in just finding out if we are the right fit for them. It's low pressure, informational. Um, that's available to you.
Awesome. Yeah, you have so much. Like you have a lot going on, but a lot of those resources are very good. And thanks for the workbook and the offering people the workbook. That's very generous. Think it's a great first step for getting things under control for your office. So let's wrap up with one thing you want people to know from the episode. I'll go first, and the one thing I want people to know is like like Julie's a great example of like following your passions, like something that she's passionate about, that she knows how to do. She can help people. She believes in it, and she's sharing it with other people, and it has worked out. It's worked out really well for her. You know, the leader in the industry, and for people who are scared about like developing niches and like, oh, I'll get bored, or there won't be enough people to help. I gotta serve the masses. I think, if you find something that you love and passionate about and you can lead people to their desired location, you're going to find enough people to help that they're going to support you. And you can make that, you can, one, make an impact on the world, but also make a living at helping the people you can help the best. So follow your passions. That's the one thing um, that I wanted people to remember. How about you, Julie? What's your one thing that you want people to remember?
Okay. My one thing for today, I'm showing James, although you won't be able to see it, listeners, but I'm showing him the back of the book, and it says every practice deserves to be profitable.
Mhm.
So if I had one thing that I would love for you to remember, every practice deserves to be profitable. I often feel like I have to convince therapists that they should have a profit in their practice because it feels like it's a dirty thing, right? Oh,
Mhm.
profit. We're not in it for the money. We're here to help people. But I think to have a profitable practice is in service to your clients, to your community, to your team if you have one, and to yourself. Like you have to put on your oxygen mask first
Mhm.
and make sure that you are taken care of to do your best work and be able to take care of more people. So that would be my wrap up.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that message, Julie. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, James.
So this is James Marland with Julie Harris, our special guest. Thanks for listening to the Scaling Therapy Practice, the show where you take small steps towards big growth. We'll see you next time.
Psych Maven is proud to support the Scaling Therapy Practice podcast. And if you are someone looking for ideas that are tailored to your own personal style on how to scale and grow your own impact and income as a mental health provider, we hope you might check out our free online assessment. If you go to stp.psychmaven.com, you can take our free personal inventory and find out what your builder type is as a helping professional. This assessment is quick and fun, and it comes with tons of customized resources with your results, so you can discover the best ways to scale that match your own personality. Find the assessment at stp.psychmaven.com. That is stp.psychmaven.com. Have fun with it.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Scaling Therapy Practice. I really hope you enjoyed listening to the show as much as I enjoyed interviewing the guests and talking about Profit First with Julie Harris. Before we go, I just need to remind you that the information and advice in this episode is from the guests and hosts and is not intended for personal consultation. If you need an accountant, a lawyer, a therapist, I recommend you go hire a professional in those areas. If you're looking for more support and guidance for accounting, you can go to the Green Oak Accounting page or the Therapy for Your Money page, especially for accounting services for your office. And Julie and her team would be happy to help you there. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. I hope to catch you next episode and keep making those small steps towards big growth. We'll see you next time.